Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher, joined as always with Hall of Fame coach Dick Briggs, ready to break down some of the wrestling action here that we're in full steam for college and high schools. But we'll start off kind of going over kind of the slim slate, I guess, from last week, and then just kind of look ahead here briefly of what some of the teams have coming up. But the one thing that was on the docket this last weekend, the UNI Open, and I thought it was kind of interesting, Dick, that Doug Schwab in his weekly press conference there said, a lot of times I don't feel good after this one. Most seasons they're coming back from Cliff Keen the week before, two long grinding tournaments back to back, and this year he kind of had a little bit of a different feel. He said that I don't feel as miserable as he usually does. Of course, the Panthers had a decent performance overall. That helps.
Right. I don't know where he's coming from, but I can guess. Prior to that, they had the two duels with the top 10 teams. Certainly, so and performed all right. I think he would have liked to have done better, but did all right. So then, sometimes when your expectations aren't as high, you tend to look at it a little differently. So, like for instance, if he's a top 5 team and he performed like the team did, it's a totally different perspective. And so, as a coach, I found that I tried to keep my goals high, but expectations high, but also realize that, it's a different perspective every year. And so this year he's kind of looking upwards a little bit and watching his team grow. And so I think that's probably where it's coming from, personally.
Yeah, and they're not really at full strength. You've got Tristan Lara out at 49, even though we'll talk about the performance. 149 at that weight class. And then you look at Carter Isley's not in there. But overall, you had some good individual performances, I think. And I don't think Brody Teskey wrestled. Did he?
I don't think so either. Huh?
Yeah. So definitely not all their top guys performing, but they did come away with 3 champs. I think 6 finalists. 12 medalists overall. And of course the 3 champions, Colin Real Buto at 149, Parker Keckeisen at 184, and then Terrell Gordon up at heavyweight this season, and he came away with a tournament title. So seems like a better fit there. But out of those 3 performances, what really kind of anything jump out at you? And
actually, Gordon did at heavyweight. I mean, we knew he was all right and he's decent, but I just thought that was a nice performance and good job by him. And Isley isn't there, so he stepped in and did a great job. And one other thing that's nice about hosting the tournament like that is you get to have all of your guys, at least all that are ready and able, wrestle. And so you're seeing more than just your 10 starters. You kind of see a lot of the depth and who's going to challenge where possibly, and who might be able to slide in where if you have a hole. So there's a lot of things early on, and if guys are missing this tournament, that's all right. They need to heal up. It's a long season. College wrestling is. I always thought that, and so this is the time to if you're got some bumps and whatever to get them healed up. So
The thing with Gordon, Doug Schwab addressed that during his news conference. Gordon had wrestled at 97 before, of course, prep from Waterloo East. But he just kind of made reference that Gordon not liking the weight cut anymore. Now, instead of worried about getting down to weight, he's focused on training and building up. He doesn't have to worry about a number on the scale anymore. So he's actually enjoying the workouts and, coming in the room, lifting, and trying to bulk up a little bit. And it's just kind of rejuvenated him a little bit, moving up to heavyweight instead of cutting down to 97. So you saw that produce a major and then a pin. Pin over Bowen McConville of South Dakota State, which apparently had beaten Gordon a little bit earlier. So he was able to turn that around and actually win by fall. So I know Doug Schwab was pretty happy about that for the Panthers.
It's amazing how if you take away the weight cutting factor, how much more fun wrestling is.
Sure.
And you hear a lot of people say that's the least fun part of wrestling. However, as a guy that cut a lot of weight, I always kind of turned it this way on my, I didn't cut much my first 2 years in college, but then a lot the next two. But I always kind of used that as my psyche both ways. Once when I was weighing in with all my clothes on, and I'm looking at the guy next to me, and he's going to whip this guy, and then he didn't, hopefully, and then. Then the reverse of that is when you're cutting a lot of weight, the psyche or whatever you're telling yourself with your self-talk is, I'm busting my behind and sacrificing to get down there. There's no one that's going to beat me. The only thing that's going to beat me is the scale, and the scale's not going to beat me. So that's another thing you tell yourself. So as you're with wrestlers at different places, he's obviously not having to worry about that anymore. So he's enjoying the benefits of a meal each time he wants one.
Yeah, right. For me, I think one of the notable performances came at 149 with Real Buto. Coming away with a win there. And it's not so much the first two, but the 5-3 win over Michael Blockus of Minnesota, ranked number 22. Real Buto. I don't want to say filling in for Tristan Lara because I think there might be some competition there, but I think Lara definitely the guy. He's getting closer to coming back, according to Schwab. But that's a big win, and shows some of UNI's depth or what they could do there. And let's not forget the fact that Blockus used to be a Panther and
left the program. So and you're exactly right. I think if there wasn't a competition for the spot prior to the UNI Open, there certainly is now after that win. That was a huge win. And I'd forgotten about that actually. And that was a signature win over a very tough, highly ranked wrestler, former Panther, now current Minnesota wrestler. So,
right. And of course, Parker Keckeisen, did his thing as normal. One of the aspects that I thought was interesting, when you look at his last two scores a little bit, 6-0, 6-1, you might be thinking, that's not really a lot of points for him. But Doug Schwab kind of mentioned that one of the things that Keckeisen is focusing on is riding guys. And this tournament, he rode guys really tough and hard. Everybody knows what he can do on his feet. But sounded like he was working on his top game and outscored his last two opponents 12-1. So that might be Keckeisen working on really on another phase of his wrestling.
Right, becoming more complete. I'm glad to hear that. He'll be a much more complete wrestler. And you know, and I could be wrong, but I thought he was ranked third to start with, and then on the recent poll I saw he's ranked fourth. So I don't know why he dropped, but that kid's so fun to watch. He's active and everything, and obviously there's lots of polls, so maybe I'm confusing him. But he's boy, to hear he's working on top like that, that's going to be a treat for the Panthers.
I don't. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I think the only reason why he dropped was with the addition of Miles Amin, maybe.
Oh yeah, certainly.
With those guys deciding to come back from Michigan. I think Amin and Massa and obviously Soriano. I don't think they were in the rankings to start out, but I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure.
And that's very fair. He deserves to be fourth behind those three. He just, he's done well, but there's certainly admirable ranked kids to be ahead of him.
At 157, I know it wasn't anything in the finals, but I think Doug Schwab kind of liked the battle there at that weight. Cade Lara and Derek Holschlag, the two of them finished third and fourth. Holschlag was third, beat Lara in the final round 9-7. But Schwab kind of made mention about how these two are pushing each other, and you're starting to see kind of both of them elevate a little bit due to the competition. Holschlag lost to Minnesota's Brayton Lee, who is ranked. Lara lost to Jarrett Jacques of Missouri by 2. And then of course Holschlag in the final round. But that could be a good sign there at 57 for the Panthers, that the competition really making each other better.
Right. That's that seeing where your depth is at that I was talking about earlier, and there's a good example of it right there for sure. I don't know that heck, you and I, we're not in the room, we don't know, but from the outside looking in, it appears to be that might have been a little bit of a reversal, and so good for Holschlag.
One other thing I want to mention about UNI's performance this last weekend. Cale Happel, runner-up at 141, lost to Minnesota's 22nd ranked Jake Berglund 12-9. I'm pretty sure Happel has been in the finals of each Open he's competed in so far this year. I think he's 1 title and 2 runner-up finishes. And second of all, the scorekeeper better keep his eyes open when Cale Happel wrestles, because he's put up a lot of points in some of these matches. 14, 11, and 12 last Saturday. I think he scored 11 against Hart from Missouri. You're gonna get a lot of points when Cale Happel wrestles, and right now it looks like it's gonna be tough for opponents to really kind of keep up the same pace when they're facing him.
And it's been my experience that freshmen wrestle, any redshirt freshman wrestle wide open. And then when they get to be older, when it's they tend to shut down a bit. So I hope he keeps that going and keeps wrestling wide open, like you're saying, and because that's fun. That's great wrestling. It's entertaining, and when you're a wrestler that does that, you want to continue doing that. It's just you kind of hate to have those shutdown matches or slow matches. So I hope he does. That's fun and exciting.
Yeah, you're going to frustrate a lot of opponents just by that constant attack, like you said. Facing some upperclassmen that don't want to say regress. That's not it, but they just kind of lock down a little bit and maybe wrestle a little more conservatively.
Right.
And that's going to frustrate. Just kind of keep firing off shots or creating action, and that's going to help him just win a few matches just on that alone.
Right. So that'll be fun to watch. Put him and Kakaisen in there. Those guys like to fire it off, and a couple other guys in that lineup as well. So that's going to be a fun to watch their growth and see how far they go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who all takes the trip down to Florida for the collegiate duels that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Iowa and Iowa State both had wrestlers compete there as well. I know Iowa had two individual champions. Patrick Kennedy at 165 came away with a title. Colin Shriver at 133 came away with a title and had a nice win in the finals against Kyle Biscaglia of Northern Iowa. Shriver won 7-4 there. So a nice performance from the former Mason City prep.
Right, and the tournament wasn't real deep in that some of the teams didn't bring a whole lot of people, but they brought good quality people. And I think some of the out-of-state teams, I don't know if it's a COVID issue or what, but they either did not as many of them came, or they brought fewer wrestlers. So it still was a very good quality tournament for sure.
Yeah, speaking of that, just on a tangent, found out, I think it was today, South Dakota State was supposed to duel at Nebraska, but that's been canceled because of COVID with an outbreak in the Nebraska program. So it's still rearing its ugly head. So hopefully measures can help avoid any further cancellations and postponements. Patrick Kennedy took care of business, beat Grant Stotts and Isaac Judge in consecutive rounds, and then reached the finals against Minnesota's Cale Carlson and won 7-5. I think he really opened up some eyes when he finished second to Marinelli at the Luther Open, and Marinelli needed the late takedown to win that one. So Patrick Kennedy, somebody that you figure next year will be able to step in to those weight classes where Marinelli and Kemmerer will graduate and be a contributor for Iowa.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking through my head the other day. The kids, the wrestlers that are in get that extra bonus year. So does that filter itself out after 5 years?
I think so.
So in 5 years from this year, that all of those wrestlers potentially would be done, right, with that bonus year.
Yep.
Okay. So he kind of fell into that window where he's behind Marinelli, obviously, and so he's going to either have to take another year or not have it, or not be able to wrestle varsity for a year in his career. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, obviously he's ready to roll. It sounds like, it looks like.
Drake Ayala was a runner-up at 125 for Iowa. Obviously, the former Fort Dodge prep won big in his first two matches, and then dropped an 8-4 decision to Pat McKee, who I think finished third or fourth last year at the NCAA tournament.
I agree. Highly ranked wrestler.
Yeah, so a pretty good performance there for Ayala.
Isn't it kind of funny how we forget about 125 after Lee? he makes everyone else look not so good, or at least he has so far in his career, that we kind of forget. That's a great wrestler, but Lee kind of makes everyone look not so good.
Right. That's for sure. I know after the Iowa duel, Kevin Dresser mentioned sending some of the guys to the UNI Open and maybe trying to kind of filter things out. And I think 165 was one of those spots. Isaac Judge and Grant Stotts went down there to compete. Judge ended up getting third, Stotts fourth. Judge winning their placing match 2-1 and tiebreaker 1. Is that going to be a weight? And Carter Schmidt from Iowa State got fifth. Is that going to be a weight that's going to be a constant? Might be a revolving door until you get to the postseason for Iowa State.
Maybe, yeah, certainly. I don't think that really resolved much. A sudden victory, or it was a tiebreaker win.
Tiebreaker 1. Yep.
I don't know that really resolves much. And then also maybe 74 as well, if I remember it right. They're for Iowa State. Those two might be spots that they'll want to try and make it a little stronger for sure.
Sure. Anything else stand out to you from there?
At the UNI Open? No. Nice job.
So now what's up next? All these teams will wrestle technically for Iowa and UNI. It's not until next Monday, but we'll call it the weekend anyway. Iowa State actually will hit the mat first in kind of this is something I think is pretty cool. And,
I agree. Yeah.
So Iowa State is going to host Purdue in a duel at Humboldt. Obviously, both head coaches, Kevin Dresser for Iowa State and Tony Ersland for Purdue, were Humboldt natives and wrestled for Humboldt High School. Both actually two-time state champions for Humboldt. So they're going to go back to their hometown and have this. I think we've seen it with Dave Malachek and Heath Grimm taking their college programs to Osage. Upper Iowa and Wisconsin lacrosse dueled at Osage, I think, in the past. But this is certainly a lot bigger and pretty cool. It's Sunday at 5 p.m. And you're going to get a Big 10 versus Big 12 matchup in the small town of Humboldt.
Isn't it cool that little old Humboldt has two Division I wrestling coaches?
Yeah.
Big 12 and Big 10. That's really neat. And it's what a way to honor the rich history of Humboldt wrestling.
Yeah. So I mean that's neat. I don't know what the population of Humboldt is. I know they're a 2A school. I'll see if I can look it up here quick. But yeah, for them to have two head coaches at the D1 level, not just D1 level, but the Power 5 conferences, as they say in other sports. It looks like the population is about just under 4,800. As they have two D1 coaches in the traditional power conferences of the Big 10 and the Big 12. That's pretty awesome. And of course, Purdue, there'll be plenty of Iowa guys for Iowa State suiting up. And then Purdue, you've got Max Lyon from Western Dubuque that'll be making the trip here as well.
Right. I couldn't help but think both coaches are graduates of Iowa, right?
Yes, that is true.
And the same was true of the Iowa State meet. So I wonder if they'll be, when they do handshakes at the end. Oh, never mind. We don't go there.
I never know if you get another scuffle. Speaking of that,
you might actually see a hug.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Bedlam series.
Oh boy.
Well, we'll just touch on this before we get on the collegiate duels down in Florida. But so Oklahoma State, they had to do Iowa and Iowa State one better. did you see the goings on after the Bedlam Series duel that Oklahoma State won handily? But AJ Ferrari and Josh Heintzelman from Okie State and Oklahoma took things a little further after the duel.
Yeah, they were going through the handshake, and obviously something that was said. I think that this had been boiling probably before the day even started, from the summer. Yeah. And so, having that, I don't know either side of it, but neither one of them were in the right. But at least it was it was a takedown and by Ferrari. And he walked away when everyone started to split it up. He walked away, and not without a little fanfare there, maybe, or whatever. But maybe it's also a setup for his future career.
Yeah, and see, that was one thing I saw being bandied about a little bit. I hope we don't get to that point where we have, WBA or UFC type, kind of those faux, get in your face, attract attention kind of things. I hope we're not getting to that, especially with the name, image, likeness thing, and people are trying to build up their following and everything. I hope we don't get to that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, trying to build up their resume. But when you have a phone and everyone has access to a social media of some kind, that is where your trouble stems. So you got all that going, and back in our day, KJ, if you wanted to communicate with the other Russell, you had to call him up on the phone or send a letter.
That's right.
Who was going to do that? So now you can just punch some, letters on your phone and hit send, and it turns ugly.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, hopefully we don't see any more of that. But the one thing is too, it hasn't been anything serious. We're not talking Atlanta Braves, San Diego Padres, or Yankees, Orioles, bench clearing brawls, or anything like that. Or Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers type malice at the palace. So
however,
they've been fairly tame.
Yeah. However, we've had some not so good incidents at the Iowa high school level. So hopefully it doesn't go to that either. So
yeah. Have you seen anything wrestling related for those? I mean, most of them so far have just been. I've seen a couple basketball incidents, but not that really matters. You don't want to see it in any sport, but
and hopefully that's the case. Doesn't turn to our sport.
Sure. Well, we've kind of got a new dual event that UNI and Iowa are going to be at. We'll call it this weekend. Actually, it's Monday and Tuesday. The Collegiate Duals, Journeyman Collegiate Duals, down at Niceville, Florida, which I think is a Panhandle, Florida Panhandle kind of.
Where is it at? Okay.
Niceville, Florida.
Okay. I was thinking it was in Destin, Florida, but it's Niceville. Okay.
Well, it might be one of those things where it's right, like they're right in the same.
Oh.
Niceville flows into Destin, like Cedar Rapids to Marion, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. Just going off one of the releases from USA Wrestling, they have Niceville, Florida listed.
So it sounds like there's 12 teams, 2 pools, and the 2 pools will compete within their pool but won't cross over. Does that sound right?
Correct. So you're going to have 2 16 pools, and actually you can really consider them 4 3-team pools, because one half of the pool. So I'll just go down. It might be easier just to explain it as is here. So the red pool consists of Binghamton, Missouri, North Carolina State, Lehigh, Central Michigan, and Iowa. So Binghamton, Missouri, and North Carolina State will all duel each other on the first day. Lehigh, Central Michigan, and Iowa will duel each other the first day, and then the two top teams will duel each other out of those six. So, say North Carolina State upsets Missouri, goes 2-0, and Iowa goes 2-0. Then they'll have a Red Pool championship match between North Carolina State and Iowa. And, the second place teams will face each other for third and fourth. And then the third place teams will face each other for fourth or fifth and sixth in their pool. So it's a little bit of maybe it's a little misleading because none of the red pool teams will duel the teams in the blue pool.
Which
So
is, I think that's a good thing because it's likely that Iowa could win and should win that red pool, and Penn State should and could win that blue pool. And that meet is already set up for later on in the season. And you'd hate to have that meet happen down in Florida when it should be at one of the schools, personally.
Okay, that's fair. I just thought I think if you're trying to get closer to getting back to a national dual type event, it'd be cool to see that kind of thing. Or even, I don't see Iowa losing. I don't see UNI beating Penn State. But, I was also kind of interested, hey, what if UNI and Iowa finally got a chance to meet up? But kind of goes along with the same rationale that you mentioned. You'd hate to see Iowa and UNI actually face off without it being either in Iowa City or Cedar Falls.
Right.
So I get it.
That might be the only way it could happen. It sounds like.
Yeah, right now.
But UNI drew a tough group with Penn State and Cornell in their 3-team pool, I guess.
Yeah, and it was announced yesterday that Cornell University was shutting down a little bit. I think students were going to be taking courses or their finals online. The facilities and stuff are going to be shut down. And some of their athletic events, mainly men's and women's basketball, were going to be canceled for this weekend. I think that sent a lot of panic through the wrestling community, but actually Yanni Diakomahalis posted on Twitter that they are heading down to Florida. So that interruption in Cornell's daily activities is not going to affect wrestling going down to Florida this weekend. So that'll be good. And as you said, UNI draws Cornell and then Penn State. So
KJ,
heck of a test for them.
I assume that was COVID related issue.
Yes. Sorry. Yep. They had, according to the news story, it was the Omicron variant outbreak there on campus. So, we've seen that. We've seen Nebraska canceling the duel here with South Dakota State this weekend. Hopefully, it doesn't get any worse because we've already been down that road of where it's impacted nationals and stuff like that. And obviously, we want everybody to be healthy and safe, but it's something we don't want to go down that road again. And hopefully, it's not. Hopefully, it's just kind of restricted or limited in its impact there. So the blue pool, it's a pretty nice field. You've got Hofstra, Virginia Tech, Arizona State in one half, and then as we mentioned, UNI, Cornell, and Penn State. So you could get some really nice matchups there. Arizona State, Penn State, Virginia Tech, Cornell, UNI, and Hofstra. I think Hofstra kind of being, kind of a distant from the other five, but especially a top four group too, could be some fun duels there.
Right. And I don't know Hofstra very well, so if UNI ends up wrestling Hofstra, that might be a nice matchup too. So I don't know. So, and if UNI had some guys out of their lineup last weekend, I don't know what they may be bringing. So we'll see on that. But it'd be fun to watch that. Like you said, some great matchups.
Yeah.
One of my favorite college wrestlers, you already mentioned his name, Yanni. The guy just goes, and he's man, it's impossible to score that guy almost. But and that's gonna be quite a weight class.
Fun to watch.
Yeah, that's gonna be quite a weight class at the nationals and so forth. So
sure. So action begins Monday at 10 a.m. Iowa doesn't wrestle until 6. They'll wrestle their duels back to back at 6 and 8 p.m. For the red pool. In the blue pool, UNI will wrestle Cornell at 4 o'clock and Penn State at 6 o'clock on Monday. And I should mention Iowa opens with Central Michigan and then wrestles Lehigh in the final red pool duel. Then on Tuesday, you'll have the 5th and 6th place duels at 1, 3rd and 4th at 3. Then you'll have the red pool championship duel at 5, and then Blues championship duel at 7 o'clock. So it'll be interesting to see how this is received and how it plays out. Do you think we'll ever get back to a national duels type event or get a national dual champion like in the past?
at the D1 level, because obviously the other three,
Yes.
all the other levels do have that. And do I think so? No, I don't. Do I wish they would? Yes, I do. But I just, they've tried so many different ways to do it. And you got coaches that are unwilling to step in and risk a seat at nationals or do whatever. And so I don't think it's going to happen. So that's my opinion.
So anything else from this weekend, Coach Briggs, or anything coming up? I know the Desert Duels will occur.
Some great D3 competition this week. We'll start out with a depressing one for you, KJ. The Coco Hawks handled University of your Beavers pretty good, 54-0. So sorry about that, man. But I'm telling you right now, keep an eye on Co because they are a good team this year. They are very good. And they're lurking down there at third, fourth ranked team, but who knows? They could very well walk away with a championship this year. And then Loris, Russell Cornell beat them 40-6. However, I don't know if you noticed this. Cornell's Killian Paragon beat number 5 Zeke Smith at 57, and Casey Allen beat number 7 Gabe Pfizer at 65. So their 2 wins were over highly ranked wrestlers at Loris. So that's a step up for Cornell, even though the score is pretty lopsided. They had 2 bright spots for sure.
Yeah, and those 2 guys, if you remember, Cornell really did not have a regular season last year. They maybe had about 3 or 4 matches before the NWCA tournament. And those 2 actually caught a lot of people by surprise with how well they wrestled down there. They both performed very well, earning All-American honors at the NWCA tournament. And you've seen that really continue into this season. They've been 2 bright spots for the Rams.
For sure. And, Cornell had that abbreviated schedule. They didn't even start till February, if I remember right, because they're not affiliated with a conference, at least in wrestling, and or a conference that has a lot of teams that wrestle. So that was probably the issue there. But they did pick up a couple of competitions prior to that. And yeah, so they did a nice job there. Moving on here, Luther lost 22-16 to Wisconsin Stevens Point. Wartburg had a double duel and beat Olivet 44-3, and then UWP 24-15, and then University of Dubuque had 3 duels. They won convincingly against Schreiner and MSOE, Milwaukee School of Engineering, and then they lost to Wabash, 28-12. Wabash is a highly ranked team too, so not too bad there for UD. And then Zarek Anderson, the 57-pounder for UD, was named the ARC Wrestler of the Week.
Wow. This performance there. It's I tell you what, there are going to be some really fun ARC duels. I think the conferences, you obviously have Warburg and Morris and Co at the top, but I think you've got some very good teams on the next level there
Right.
as well.
And then go one step further, that regional tournament, throw in about 10 other teams that have quality wrestlers. Everyone's bringing in at least one or two quality wrestlers, in some cases more, if you're North Central or Milliken. And then it turns almost ugly, like we talked about last week. So yeah, no point taken for sure. Upper Iowa was off, and they're off until the national duels that happened the 6th and 7th of January. So no report really on D2. This week, in D3, some actually a good week for some of these teams. The Gator Boots Duals. I always think that's kind of a fun name for a tournament. I don't know if they give us a Gator what they give for awards or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be cool if they gave out a pair of gator skin boots or
even a belt or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they go down and they get 3 duels each. Loris and Luther are down there competing in Nashville, Tennessee. And then Cornell goes to the Prairie Wolf Duels, and they'll get 4 duels out in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Wartburg hosts in Las Vegas, of all places, the Desert Duels. And unfortunately, was scheduled to go there, and the administration is not allowing them to travel. I think that happened sometime back, but for some reason it's on their schedule and they're not attending. But the one thing about the Desert Duels is, if I'm reading it right, Wartburg, who's currently ranked 2nd, is going to be wrestling against North Central, who's ranked 1st now in the latest NWC that I saw. So anyway, the rankings have been all over the board, and they will continue to be until you see who comes back second semester and see where everyone's at. So
right.
I do happen to know that Warburg will have a couple of guys adding to their lineup.
Yeah, one pretty closely too. That's that'll make an impact. So
KJ, I should say this. I was up at Wartburg and for the duels last Saturday, and had Xander Wiedemeyer's mom, Xander wrestles for Waverly Shellrock, came up and was chatting, and she made sure she mentioned that she watches. So
really? Well, that's awesome.
For sure doing that. So
well, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate that for sure, and hope she had a good time up there. Of course, that's wrestling country. And you got Waverly Shellrock and Wartburg right there, 2 of the best at their levels in the entire country. So that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
So, one of the things I think we might get on the prep side of things, we had a couple losses here this week, but just I'll mention it here quickly, and we can delve into it a little bit more on the prep side. But the loss of Mark Ryland, an NCAA champion for the University of Iowa this last week. I think everybody remembers that final where he pinned Kevin Randleman. Not so much that he pinned Randleman, because I think he had beaten him a couple of times during the season, but the way he did with the neck wrench, chin whip, putting him on his back, pinning him right before the period ended, right there in the center of Carver Hawkeye Arena. Memory that many people have. He was a 2-time All-American and very accomplished Greco wrestler, if I remember right, in high school. As a 2-time champ for Eagle Grove. But I remember him being at a number of Big Ten tournaments and maybe even Midlands presenting awards. So he's a college wrestling uh, somebody that will be missed at the collegiate level, and certainly a notable college wrestling performer.
Yeah, another tragic loss into our wrestling community, and even since then, we lost another longtime wrestling coach and other things as well, connected to the Battle of Waterloo. Ali, help me with the last name, Ramavardi, and another loss there, and I'm heartbroken and saddened and fearful for everyone. So be safe out there, and it hurts, man, these losses. So
It does. It does. Well, we'll transition into the prep wrestling. Obviously, Mark had, a huge impact on that side of things as a coach. He spent, I think, 21 years total, 21 or 22 years total. Couple seasons at Solon before he took over at Iowa City West, and really had a lot of success there over 19 years. I think 436 dual wins total, 411 at West over that time. Ranks among, the state's leaders in dual wins as a coach. Had a number, I think 7 championship teams, 2 traditional state tournament teams, 5 state duals champions. Coached 2 or 3 wrestlers that became All-Americans at the collegiate level, and then of course Derek St. John, a national champ for the University of Iowa. But his impact was beyond just Iowa City West. He did a lot of work with Iowa USA Wrestling and freestyle and Greco as well.
right, he was the chairman of the IWF. I think they still call it that. Basically, the governing body for the freestyle and Greco, and I think now the girls as well. So yeah, he had really a long-reaching, and was still the chairman, even though he wasn't coaching anymore. So I mean, his heart and soul was in wrestling, and yeah, major loss for sure.
Yeah, I know Marv and Marlis are still kind of dealing with things, and it's been kind of a painful week for them. His wife Michelle as well. I got to cover his teams. Able to work side by side with them. He did a few of the KCRG 9.2 meets. He was somebody that wasn't really. I don't want to say he wasn't outspoken, but he when he wanted to say something, he'd say something. It wasn't, he wasn't somebody that was just into probably just casual conversation with somebody. But when it came to wrestling, that's something he cared about, and that was his focus.
He was a tell it like it is guy, and and because of that, and because of his demeanor, the way he kind of carried himself, a lot of people might have mistaken that, as being kind of an offsetting whatever sort of guy, and some might have other names for it, but he's a good guy, had a good sense of humor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard for Marv and his wife and the whole family. Gosh. So
yeah, just a true nice guy at heart. For those people that were close to him, and kind of a teddy bear under that gruff exterior. But once he let you in, you saw just how caring and generous he was, and he was always that way with his wrestlers. So it's a huge loss
Right.
for very many.
I think you described it really well on one of your uh, tweets or whatever, that he almost relished that persona. It's like, everyone has their own persona. I think he wore that with some pride, maybe.
I think so. It was one of those things where, if you got to know him, then you understood where he was at. But if you came in with this preconceived notion just based off maybe the way he looked, or maybe if he was curt at some time, or listened to many of the opinions or about him that circulated around from people that didn't know him, he was fine with letting you think that. You know what? If you think, and I'll be blunt, if you think I'm an asshole, go ahead and think I'm an asshole. That's fine with me. If you ever got to know me, you realize, I could still be gruff or short, but I have a lot of affection for people that are close to me, and people that I respect, and I think you saw that. But I also had that thing where, okay, they think I'm a jerk. Go ahead and think I'm a jerk, and maybe even play it up a little bit. So, but that guy definitely made a huge impact as a wrestler, two-time state champ from Eagle Grove, as a national champ and All-American for Gable's national championship teams at Iowa, and then coaching. And then even when he got out of coaching, he was still running tournaments with Truck Wrestling, working with Matt Shannon and Wyatt Schultz and stuff. So he was still giving back to the wrestling community, just in a different way. And, you talk about service, and I think Mark did that to the sport.
For sure. Yep.
So let's get into the action from last week, boy. We really jumped into a hotbed here before the holiday break coming up here in about a week or so. But last weekend, a lot of good tournaments, kind of all over the place. Let's just start at Mount Vernon. That's where I was in person. That was a great tournament there. A lot of smaller schools, but a lot of great action. Lisbon put 8 in the finals. Kind of use air quotes in that because I think 2 of the weights were actually round robins, and Lisbon was in one of those. But the final round really would have been the finals anyway. But they had 6 out of 8 champs. They're in the finals. One of them was actually a medical forfeit, so they won 6 out of the 7 matches they actually competed in, and won the tournament handily over Mount Vernon. But another strong performance from Lisbon here in back-to-back weeks.
Right, and it wasn't even close, really. Mount Vernon was second, Assumption third, Marion fourth, and when you have 8 in the finals, 6, you walk away with 6 champs. That's and one was a forfeit. You only lose basically 1 match in the finals. Mm-hmm. That's a good final round and a good day. And Lisbon's seen a few of those in their days. So
yeah, right.
That's pretty much the norm. But they had a good day for sure.
Yeah, one of the Brandon Paez at 120 continues to roll. Kate Siebrecht back on top after the upset Logan Arp from South Tama Independence a week ago. Siebrecht looked really good. The one that really kind of stood out, Quincy Happel. Mm-hmm. He looks huge at 126, even though I think he's maybe even a little under that now. Started at 138. They had the ability for somebody else to cut to 132, and that's where Happel wrestled last year, even though Brett Smith mentioned that he was not a true 32-pounder last year. He was lighter. But with Tiernan Boots moving down to 32, Quincy Happel says, hey, I'll go down to 26, make them stronger. And, of course, you got Sebrecht at 38. That's going to be a pretty nice kind of run of weights for them when you go Paez, Happel. Boots has looked pretty good so far, and then Sebrecht and Happel with a big win over Wapsie Valley's Dawson Schmidt in the finals.
Right. And when you have a string of solid wrestlers like that, it tends to draw other people in as well. So you might see some weight, no one wants to be the guy that loses, right? You want to be that guy. So that snowball effect and that momentum on your side really can help win some matches.
It was kind of interesting with Happel and Dawson Schmidt. 2 years ago, they wrestled each other twice. In the regular season, Happel won at the Battle of Waterloo, and then Schmidt actually beat him at the state tournament. So Happel had 3 takedowns and then rode Schmidt the entire third period. So even though it was 7-3, it was Happel was really in control the whole match. The one thing I asked Happel about, and he was pretty open about it. I said, what are the goals? What are you looking to be happy with when you walk away? And he openly admitted, hey, when it's come to the state tournament, I really haven't performed well. It hasn't treated me too hot, and that's what I'm looking forward to do this year is keep working, keep improving and climbing all the way to February and make sure I finish the postseason strong, and show people what I'm really capable of. And I think now, not that he was in it, I mean, I really don't know how to put this, because you've got Carter that was a 4-timer, Kale was a 4-timer, Dean was a 3-timer. Reminds me of the LeClairs a little bit, where you had Dan as a 4-timer, Nick as a state champion, and then Chris. There's a lot of pressure on Chris to follow that up. But I just get a sense that Quincy he's at a point where I don't think there's that pressure right now. That either that or he's just kind of pushed it off to the side and he's just focused on being his best self and working through the regular season to finish things off strong. Not because of he wants to join his brothers, but just because he wants to prove how good he really is, and he hasn't done that 3 previous seasons. Right,
and he shouldn't. And though I'm sure he has and will, and hopefully he's kind of minimizing that. But he's got his own path and his own abilities and so forth, and so you just do what you can do within your ability, and both physically and mentally, and sounds like he's got a good attitude with the comments that you just mentioned. So good for Quincy.
Yeah, for sure. Mount Vernon ended up getting second there. Had 2 champs, Henry Ryan at 152, who won by medical forfeit over Matthias Cole, and then Clark Younggreen at 220, who was pretty dominant on Saturday. One thing I thought was pretty neat, Henry Ryan, the 4th Ryan brother to win the home tournament there at Mount Vernon. He joins Jacob, Trey, and Paul there. So that was kind of neat for the Mustangs.
Very cool.
Family.
Yeah, very cool. That's just, I mean, you don't hear that too often, but I'm sure it happens here and there, but it's not a lot of families that have 4 brothers that wrestle.
That's right.
And that's pretty cool.
You mentioned Marion getting 4th, and they had a champ in West Logan, but we talked about this earlier. Washington and Marion both kind of improving, and I think this is a good sign for Marion. This was not a real easy tournament. When you got the likes of Lisbon and Mount Vernon, West Liberty's in there, Assumption's in there, and for them to finish fourth, um, that's a good step up. I think Jason Hank has to be happy with what he's seeing right now.
I think so too. I actually was over at Marion working their youth tournament on Sunday, and I didn't really get a chance to talk to him because he's so darn busy. I mean, I talked to him, but not about that.
Sure.
And I'll say this: he was kind of limping around, and I said, "Are you all right?" Because we're kind of short officials, and so short that I had to pull Riley Welsh out of the coaching ranks and put him.
Oh, really?
He did a good job. Riley's official, and anyway, so Jason was going to get out there, and I said, "Well, you're kind of limping around. That would have been tough." And he said he's going to get a new hip after the season, so that's good for him. But so I hope he has a good season that can springboard him into that surgery.
Yeah, right. Any other? Well, I guess the other thing too I mentioned Cody Fox from East Buchanan. He pinned his way through the tournament. He's a Iowa football recruit, but he's somebody that, boy, he's really made some strides, and he's gotten a lot more powerful. Had two big pins over two guys that were ranked. One of them still is. White Smith is still 10th in 1A for Lisbon. Julius Harris, I think, previously was ranked for Burlington. But he's putting together a good start. It was actually his first competition, according to Brent Lennox, because he'd only received forfeits before that. So he comes out and gets two first period pins over ranked guys. So good performance from him. And then the other one, too, Sigourney Kyoto's Jack Clarahan with a 3-1 win over Drake Collins from West Liberty in a battle of two ranked wrestlers.
Right. And then to round out the remaining champs, Colin Cassidy of West Liberty and Aaron Boone of Washington. So I think we've mentioned most of the champs, if not all of the Lisbon ones. But
yeah, Boone, just a freshman and unbeaten. He's somebody that I think is going to make a lot of noise. Looking at him, wasn't really on my radar. I mean, that's bad on my part, but boy, he looked extremely tough, winning at 113, I believe. And then the other match to mention, it was kind of weird. We had 3 straight finals that were decided 3-1 in sudden victory. So it was kind of different there. But at 160, it was Alan Couture of Assumption and Christian Stanek of Xavier. Both of them placed third last year at state. Stanek in 3A, Couture in 2A. Couture ended up winning 3-1 in sudden victory, but it was a great match. Lots of action. Then at the end, it was actually Stanek that initiated a shot, and then there was a scramble and a flurry of shots and counters and reshots and counters that Couture eventually came out on top for the winning takedown. But pretty exciting match there as well.
You kind of, those are fun to watch when they're big flurries like that, whether it's first period or sudden victory. But when it's sudden victory and it ends the match, that makes it a little more exciting, but also a little more saddening if you're not the guy getting it. So
yeah, that's right. Tough one, but here, let's move on to North Cedar. Solon came away with a team title there, 207.5 points. New London was second at 138. One thing that was good to see too there, kind of right along with the same theme with Marion, Cedar Rapids Jefferson got fourth.
yeah.
With 113 points. But it was Solon that put 7 in the finals and had 4 champs there at North Cedar.
Yeah, so it was pretty much a big gap between first and second there. Like you said, 7. But New London was second there with 5 champions. So, and they only brought 7 kids, and the other 2 were 3rd and 4th. And so they had a good day with the kids they brought for sure. New London did. But, Solon 4 champs and 3 runners up was just too much. And then the rest of the place winners as well. But Jefferson, how about that? Jayhawks had a champ and a couple other place winners, or I think 3rd, maybe 2nd. Let's see. 2 seconds. Yeah. Shakira Budadera and Austin Clifton were both 2nd. And we're going to say this one, KJ. Right? Nunzio Salinitrio.
That's how I pronounced it. So
okay, good.
Salinitrio. So
was their champion. So anyway, good to see the Jayhawks putting someone on top of the podium, and a couple of those just a step away. So nice job by the Jayhawks. I had 14 teams, I think it was, at this tournament. So yay.
Yeah. Yep. Zane Wilson got 3rd at heavyweight. I'm not sure if you mentioned that. Spartans, the Spartans champs, just want to mention them really quick. Lawson Sinwell at 120, Jordan Schmidt at 126, Lucas Campman at 170, I believe the son of Aaron Campman. I think a lot of people recognize that name. And Gage Marty at heavyweight. Interestingly, both of them in the finals at Cliff King too. Gage Marty's won back-to-back titles. Campman coming out on top after a runner-up finish the first weekend. One thing I noticed now is Gage Marty is listed at 220 for in the latest rankings. So see him kind of getting down to 220, and at first it kind of was a head scratcher, because it's like, why would you want to? You're having success. Why would you want to drop down with Wyatt Volker at 220? But talked to Jeff Voss today, and he kind of mentioned more than likely Volker will be dropping down to 195 after Christmas, or could. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Speaking of West Delaware, up at Southwind, the Southwind Invitational, you had 2 of 2A's top teams kind of go at it there. Nice little gauge for both, I guess you could say, where you had number 1 West Delaware and number 2 Osage in the field, and boy, it kind of came down to the battle you thought it might. West Delaware won with 249.5 points. Osage with 225, but I don't think anything was really determined until that final round, where West Delaware had 6 champs and Osage had 4.
Right. And backing up to your point about guys shifting weights, I think you'll see that as descent plans allow them to go down now after Christmas, people will kind of settle into their weights. As far as the Southwind and the Osage, number 1, West Delaware, number 2, Osage, battling it. It was definitely a battle of those 2 schools. There wasn't, some of the other schools got to step in here or there, but as those guys that, Solon 6 finalists, or six champs, 10 finalists, and then Osage 4 champs and 9 finalists. So anyway, they met each other 6 times in the finals, and it went 4-2 West Delaware's side. So again, I kind of made this mention before on one of our podcasts that Osage, I don't know if they have enough to knock off West Delaware come February, but they're getting close. We're definitely gonna have to keep our eye on them, and don't count on Independence either. So
yeah, and see, that's where I think 2 years ago when Osage won it, where they didn't have a lot of bullets in the chamber, but tell you what, the ones they did have struck their target, and West Delaware stumbled after the dual championship. So, I think you're right that they don't have, I don't think they have enough to really challenge if West Delaware is on. But if West Delaware stumbles like they did a couple years ago, that opens the door for an Osage or an Independence to to kind of pop in there with the talent that they have. But right now, it's kind of interesting, just the depth that West Delaware has over some of those others that,
And am I
would
right?
make the difference.
Are both of these teams, I believe, are in the Battle of Waterloo?
Yes.
So who knows? Might be sooner than later we see a duel here.
Yeah, that's that is true. I just checking really quick. Thought maybe Osage. No, Osage isn't in there.
Oh, they're not in it?
Well, no, they're not in the pool. I do not. No, Osage is in it, but they're not in West Delaware's pool. I'm just looking at the brackets really quick. Yeah, Osage is the number 2 seed with Waverly Shell Rock. So those 3, Independence, Osage, and West Delaware, are separated the first day and would only face each other on day 2, depending on the results. So,
which you got to think West Delaware is probably going to win their bracket, and maybe Osage won't. So that might not happen there. The Independence one I haven't looked at, so maybe that.
That's something we can. That's something we can talk about here in just a second as we look at this weekend. A couple things I just want to message. Speaking of Indy, they went to the South Tama Duals and went 5-0. Beat South Tama 58-21 in the final round. South Tama ended up getting second at 4-1. But I think 2 results that really struck my eye here, caught my attention. Indy suffered 2 upsets a little bit. Cooper Sanders of Vinton Shellsburg beat state champion and 3-time state finalist Isaiah Weber. Pinned him in the first period. Sanders now ranked number 1 at that weight. Weber dropped to 3. And then at 195, Marcus Beatty, who was ranked 3rd, lost to Rudy Papaki 10-8. So Papaki was ranked 10th for South Tama. So he gets a big win over Marcus Beatty there, who I think might have been top ranked in some of these rankings at one point, or maybe in the preseason. So 2 big wins there. But Independence wrestled well as a team. And of course, they'll be in the Battle of Waterloo, like you said. One other performance from this weekend, Iowa City High was at the Sadell Invitational. They finished 3rd as a team behind Waukee and Boone. The interesting thing is all 3 teams were separated by 4 points. So it was a pretty tight team race there. City High had 4 champions, Cale Seaton at 120, Cale Kurtz 126, Ryan Ott 145, and of course Ben Keeter. He had 3 pins and a 21-5 technical fall in the final. So dominant performance from him.
Quickly, as you're shifting gears there, Bobcat Duals up in Western Butte. 10 teams there. Southeast Polk ran away with it, as you might guess. They beat Williamsburg 66-9 in the finals, and most of their duels were that score or blanked. And Beckman finished. Western Butte finished 3rd. Beckman finished 6th. Kennedy was 7th. So some teams there.
Becky Kennedy 42-35 in pool play. So good performance there from Beckman. Of course, we mentioned that's kind of a team that might be a little bit of a sleeper or surprise some teams. One other thing I want to note from there, Titan Guerrero of Williamsburg. He scored his 100th victory there for Williamsburg, and I believe Jaden Moore of Benton Community also reached 100 career wins this weekend. He's a 2-time state place winner, I believe, and a state finalist a couple of years ago. So,
KJ, we probably should mention the Council Bluffs results with Iowa City West both the boys and girls, actually.
Mhm. Yeah. One of the things that I think catches my or stood out to me, Hunter Garvin again for the second straight week, just rolled through a large bracket with in and out of state competition. He won the 152-pound bracket at Council Bluffs. Believe I have him at 14-0 right now. He had 6 pins, a technical fall, and then beat Tyler Antoniak 19-8. Antoniak from Millard South in Nebraska. Um, so 5 of his pins were in the first period as well. I mean, just a dominant performance from him, and boy, he's been fantastic this season.
Yeah, I mean, there's 41 teams, boys teams in this tournament, and if you walk away, in my opinion, in the top 8, you've had a good tournament. Hunter's he's rolling, he's feeling good, and then also they had Grant Odell was 4th at 138, and then Justin Avila and Brett Peltry. I can't remember when there wasn't a Peltry wrestling on the Iowa City West team. Like forever.
Yeah, right.
But they both finished 5th. Those
Ricky,
guys
Paul, Brett.
Yeah. And those guys, Justin and Brett, went 7-2 to finish 5th. I mean, they had 9 matches and went 7-2. That's how big this tournament is. I mean, that's a lot of wrestling.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a team, they finished 6th overall with 293.5 points. Brandon Valley was 1st. Millard South was 2nd. And then Underwood actually 3rd. They had pretty good performance. They had 4 in the finals. Gable Porter won at 132, and then Blake Allen, Stevie Barnes, and Hagen Heistand all got 2nd at 120, 138, 45 respectively. But yeah, and of course Iowa City West, Robert Avila, talked to Nate Moore. He's been wrestling duels, just hasn't been wrestling tournaments right now. I'm not exactly sure why. Might be a little banged up, and maybe multiple matches may not be the best thing for him in a day, but he's good enough to go, in a duel. But we'll see. I know we'll get to see him on Thursday in a duel with Iowa or Cedar Rapids Kennedy.
Right, and there's a guy that can easily win a tournament like that, and now you throw in all of his points. Iowa City West is going to jump from 6th to who knows where, up in the
right.
And then one other one was Waukee Northwest was 4th, and those were the only 3 Iowa teams in the top 10.
Wow.
So lot of out-of-state teams. So, I mean, it is held in. I believe that is held in Nebraska, right? Or is that in Iowa?
It's at Council Bluffs, right in the mall. Oh, what is it called? Like the America Center, or
okay.
I believe it's still right inside the Iowa border there.
But then also the Iowa City West girls took 4. There was 26 teams. They took 18th. Now, when I say teams, I don't know how many each brought, but there was 26 teams that were represented by, I'm sure, at least one girl. And they had Lexi Nash was 2nd at 185, and Ava Davis went 3-2 and was 7th. So had a couple that placed there for them. So and I mentioned that because KJ, we're gonna get a chance to see those girls Thursday as well.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to call a girls duel on KCRG 9.2 on Thursday between them and Cedar Rapids Kennedy. That's going to be fun. I think we'll have JV competition, the girls duel, and then the boys duel. So this is exciting. We just had a big hosted, and then now we're going to get to call it girls duel between the Cougars and Trojans. So those two programs, obviously we've talked about Iowa City West, how they've kind of been kind of the one of the teams at the forefront with those Northeast Iowa Conference schools, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun to be able to do that and highlight their duel on Thursday.
Right, and maybe as kind of a segue back to the Battle of Waterloo. I know there's 8 teams, girls teams in that. So, and they'll have a pool. I think 2 pools of 4, and then they'll go to brackets. Kind of a little bit opposite of what the boys. But we were talking about the boys there, with potential for Osage and maybe Indy. I don't know, to wrestle each other.
Yeah, right. So we'll go to the Battle of Waterloo now, and mentioning the girls bracket. We'll start off with that. The brackets. I talked to Jim Nelson. He's covered this event since its inception and has been a part of the seeding and just a part of the tournament every year. And he mentioned this is the second year that they've had some type of girls duels, but I think this is the first time they've had full brackets. One of them named after Cassie Herkelman from Cedar Falls, and the other one named after Megan Black, who wrestled for Ottumwa and then was actually a state place winner for Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont years ago. Both of them went on to wrestle in college. But in the Herkelman bracket, you've got Waverly, Shell Rock, Indy, North Scott, and Osage. So Indy and Osage will wrestle in the second round. So you will get that. That'll be cool. The first round, Waverly, Shell Rock, Indy, North Scott, and Osage. So should be fun.
Sorry, 2 things about the bracket. One, with the Herkelman bracket, we kind of made her famous because she beat my wrestler to qualify for state. So to be the
Really?
first to qualify for state. So in a backhanded sort of way, we made her famous.
Yeah, there you go.
And then secondly, the back to brackets. One of the brackets is named after Jim Nelson. I'm not sure if you were aware of that this year.
Yes. No.
Nelson's been inducted into the Battle of Waterloo Hall of Fame, and rightly so. Good guy, hard worker.
Yep. We'll mention those here, but the Megan Black bracket, and I had nothing to do with making her famous, but I was a teammate of her uncle Jason, who was an All-American at Buena Vista. Probably one of the tough sons of a gun I've ever come across, really. But in that bracket, you've got Bettendorf, Cedar Falls, Crestwood, and Charles City. And of course, those teams have some really, really good individuals competing. So it'll be fun to watch those duels. Those will be round robin brackets, and then of course the placing duels will set up for pools for Saturday, but a little bit different for them. It's round robin instead of the brackets. But we'll just kind of go through here. Your 4 top seeds in bracket A, it'll be Don Bosco, the number 1. In bracket B, it's Waverly, Shell Rock. C, West Delaware, and D, Lisbon. Your number 2s, you've got Ankeny, Osage in the B bracket, Linmar in the C bracket, and then Independence in the D bracket. In the A bracket, you got Don Bosco versus Waterloo East. Then you got Epworth and Albernet in the quarterfinals on the top side. You got Crestwood and Union in a quarterfinal, and then Ankeny, New Hampton, Turkey Valley in the other quarterfinal there. Do you see anybody giving Don Bosco a run there in the A bracket? That's and of course that's the Barman Miller bracket, named for Jim Barman, a Waterloo East inductee, and then I believe Jim Miller,
I think it's Don Miller.
Don Miller. Okay.
And anyway, so in that bracket, in these first rounds, particularly the fourth and fifth seed are going to be your tighter meets. And so I'm looking at that Epworth and Alburnett as being the fun one to watch first round. And do I see anyone chasing Don Bosco? I don't know Ankeny well enough to make a judgment, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing too, I think Alburnett is on a little bit of an upswing. I think they wrestled really well at Cliff Keen in Independence the first weekend. I think that's a team that's improving, and we'll see what they can do against Western Dubuque. But Alburnett's off to a pretty good start, I think, and that I agree with you. That could be a fun one to watch. In bracket B, we'll go through the quarterfinals here. You got Waverly Shell Rock versus Waterloo Columbus. You've got Prairie and Nashua Plainfield on the top side as well. Then you've got Iowa City High and Charles City in the lower quarterfinal, and then Osage and Clear Lake in the final quarter there in the B bracket. So no offense to any of the teams in here, and with all due respect to Osage, really think this is if there's a lock, if we had to put a lock on any team, I think right now Waverly Shell Rock would be the one to come out of their bracket.
Waverly Shell Rock may very well be the best dual team in Iowa. I don't know. We'll see. Certainly, if they win this, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Don Bosco and some of the other schools are going to have something to say about it. But I'm with you. I don't see anyone coming close in this bracket to Waverly Shell Rock. And Osage, you've heard me speak highly of Osage, but I think Waverly Shell Rock's that good this year.
Out of the first round matchups, I tell you, the one that intrigues me the most is the Waverly Shell Rock Waterloo Columbus duel. Not because of the team score. I don't think there's any doubt that Waverly Shell Rock is one of the best teams, and it's going to be hard for anybody to beat them. But I think the potential for a great matchup at 160 in that duel, where you've got top ranked Aiden Riggins of Waverly Shell Rock, who's going to the University of Iowa, versus Max Magana, Waterloo Columbus, state champion a year ago as a freshman, top ranked in Class 1A for the Sailors. It's all about matchups and dual stuff, so you never know if somebody moves around, but if things stay as is, we could get that matchup, and that would be fun.
Yeah, I would like to think we're going to see it, because I don't think it's going to be a move to put Columbus Catholic in the seat to try and win the meet.
Right.
And they're not. Yeah, and I don't think, well, they're not in the same division, 3A and so forth. So that won't affect seeding at state. So coaches are probably thinking about those sorts of things, which is too bad, instead of just putting out the best matchup and letting it entertain the world. But so I think we could see that, KJ.
So in bracket C, I think this might be the most competitive bracket around it. I know West Delaware is West Delaware, but you've got Linmar, you've got a couple other interesting duels in the quarters. West Delaware will open up with Waterloo West. Then you've got Davenport Assumption and West Des Moines Valley in the other topside quarterfinal. That could be a good one. You got North Scott and Cedar Falls in the in a bottom side quarter, and then Linmar and Denver as a 2-7 there. You know, I'll be honest with you. I don't think this is a certainty for West Delaware. I like Winmar. I think there's some possibility for some matchup. You know, I think there's some things Linmar can do to move some guys around. Um, it'll just be a question of balance from 106 all the way to heavyweight. I think West Delaware has an edge of just being a little more solid at each weight, but it also come down to bonus points, I think. And I think both teams are capable of putting up some bonus points at certain spots. I think that might be a pretty competitive duel between the two.
I think it has potential to be, and for all the reasons you said, if Coach Stryker can get his best matchups and then get the victories, who knows, right? So, and that's 2 duels away. That would be the finals of the bracket, which I think would happen. I guess in this bracket, the first round matchup again, that 4th and 5th, Assumption and Valley. Valley did pretty well to keep young, and Assumption is Assumption, so they're pretty decent. So that might be the intriguing one to me. But I don't think either one of them will stay with West Delaware. So then it comes down to that Linmar West Delaware. So I think you might be right there. We'll see how that plays out.
And don't ever overlook North Scott either. They're sitting there at the number 3, and they're I don't know if they would have enough to West Delaware, but it'd be interesting to see how they match up with Linmar in the semis too. So, like I said, as far as top bracket from top to bottom, I think that one's probably about as competitive as you can get here.
Yep, I would agree with you, top to bottom. However, I think for me, the bracket D potential final meet might be the one that I don't know, you might be able to see an upset there. That might be the best chance.
Yeah, and of course, bracket C, that's the one named after Jim Nelson and Akeem Carter from Waterloo West. There, and then bracket D, as you mentioned, Coach, Frost Shavers bracket, Jeff Frost, and then I think it's Brent and Shavers, both of them directors of this tournament. They've helped put this together, so they're being honored in that way. And you've got Lisbon and Heelan to start things off. Then you got Clarion Goldfield versus Pleasant Valley in another quarterfinal. Indianola and Lake Mills, and then Wapsie Valley Independence, and yeah, just kind of kind of penciling things out in the bracket. You see probably maybe one of the best finals in the first day with Lisbon and Independence as a possibility, and that could be an extremely good meet.
Yeah, that of the 4 potential finals, that one to me is the one that's the most intriguing because it might be the closest of the 4. So with potential to upset the number 1 seed.
Okay. All right. So do you want to take a stab at predicting your championship pool for Saturday out of these initial brackets?
It's hard to go against Don Bosco, Waverly Shell Rock, and West Delaware. So if I'm going to have to pick an upset, it's going to be in that bracket D. So I don't know that it'll happen. But if you're going to make me pick an upset, I'm going to have to pick Independence. Okay. So, but I don't know that it'll happen though. But
all right. I'm going to throw something against the wall and see if it sticks here. I'm going to go Don Bosco, Waverly Shell Rock. I'm going to take Linmar.
Okay.
Just gonna, for no reason other just because. I'll take Linmar over West Delaware, and then the duel with Lisbon and Independence is a coin flip as far as I'm concerned. Especially Lisbon's got kind of a hole, you know, the lower end of their lineup. But they've got some darn good kids that can make up for that. Some solid competitors. I'm going to go with Lisbon. I'll go with Lisbon over Indy, but my upset will be in bracket C with Linn-Mar over West Delaware. So,
Okay, so we basically disagreed in two brackets, the C and D.
the
So
last two.
yeah, all right, cool.
So the loser will have to buy lunch at Leonardo's. So we'll see how those play out. Then
And you know we have a potential for a tie with each of us.
well, then we just go to lunch at Leonardo's anyway. We just go Dutch. So, you know, what other tournaments here quickly, you know, this weekend kind of stand out to you?
Well, you got you've got the North Lynn Invitational with a lot of area teams,
Mm-hmm.
and then in town the Doug Phillips duels, and then we got some matchups on Thursday, the duels at least in the Mississippi Valley, and I bring that up because there's a couple of boy-girl duels. We already mentioned the Kennedy Iowa City West, but and this is not Mississippi Valley, but Solon and Marion are having a girls'
Really?
duel. Also, yeah, so be interesting there.
Awesome.
Just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The girls'
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah, and there are a couple girls brackets this this Saturday. You know, Fort Dodge, I think Wilton. You know, so they're the growth is starting to be noticeable with you know, this competition. So it's a great element to see kind of be more regular, I guess. Just to mention some of those tournaments this weekend. Northland, Dyersville Beckman, which I think won it 2 years ago, will be at Northland. Cedar Rapids, Washington, Woodbury Central coming all the way over. West Fork will be there. The Doug Phillip duels. The field will consist of Anamosa, Marion, West Liberty, Williamsburg, and Cedar Rapids Xavier. One other one. It's the weekend for Southeast Polk's Red Owens holiday tournament. I think you guys used to go to that back in the day.
I went to that as a competitor so long ago as a competitor.
Oh, really?
And then for every year I was at Jefferson for 34 years, and I have quite a number of Red Owens shirts that they started after he passed away.
Oh,
and
really?
his son would give me one I bought one or two of them, but then he would give me one, you know, after that, and because Red was a good friend.
Cool.
And yeah, so we've been there 20 times. I don't think Jefferson's going there anymore though.
No, but Iowa City West will be there. They'll be there with Bettendorf, West Des Moines Dowling, of course, Southeast Polk and Waukee. So a nice little field there for the Red Owens that will include Iowa City West. Regina hosts their invitational this weekend. The Doug Guilford Invitational at Starmont that'll feature MFL, and of course East Buck. We mentioned Cody Fox earlier. Will be up there. DeWitt Central hosts the Sabre Invite, and then Fort Madison. They'll have Liberty, Missouri there, Dubuque Hempstead, Cedar Rapids, Kennedy, West Burlington, Notre Dame, Solon, Clear Creek, Amana will be among the teams in the. I think there's 20 teams there at Fort Madison as well. So a good slate of competition here the last weekend before the holiday break. And of course, we mentioned we'll be at Kennedy for the Iowa City West Kennedy duel on Thursday. I'll try to hit double double duty on Saturday, starting out at Northland and trying to get up for the championship pool Saturday night at the Battle of Waterloo. So that's where I'll be at this weekend.
And I'll be with you on Thursday, and then Friday I jump on the plane and head to Las Vegas. And I don't gamble, but it's gonna be fun to watch the desert duels.
Now, do you have anything that you do in between since you're not a gambler? And I say this because we've been to Vegas a ton of times and we love it. And we're not big gamblers either. We do other stuff. But do you have anything that you like to do in between sessions or anything like that between competition?
It's so I like to watch people. It's just, I mean, there's some wonderful shows on the street.
Yes.
People walking there. I mean, it's just a bizarre place, and that's about best I can describe it. I mean, so I like to walk around and people watch, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we like to see a lot of the sites, and people watching is probably the most entertaining thing to do there. But if you get a chance, go to the King of Kings tournament if you can manage a dinner or something like that. It's the medieval night battle that they do during dinner. It's pretty neat. Took the girls there in August when we were there, and I think it was something that that was their favorite. So
Cool.
if you do, head to the Excalibur if you're in the area. But anyway, all right. Any final words or parting shots before we close up and get ready for another week of wrestling?
It's kind of nice for the college people to be winding down or have a little break here, whether it was for their finals and now heading into their, could be Midlands or whatever, and then or that tournament down in Florida, and then also for the high school kids to kind of have a little bit of a break here also after this week. So
They'll have a few duels on Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe even Thursday night, and then we'll be a little dormant for a couple weeks. But make sure to get out and enjoy those duels Thursday night, and of course Friday and Saturday tournaments going on. So enjoy that, and we'll close up. And Coach Briggs, why don't you send us out?
hey, let's keep wrestling on the move.
Thanks for watching, everybody.